Okay, so this story, I'm not sure exactly how I want to tell it because I don't really know what I'm trying to gather from it either, or why I want to tell stories. But anyway, I hate my hair, it looks weird. Okay, so when I was very young, I was wandering around the house and I'm like staring at the wall because there's this thing on the wall. I'm like, I gotta ask somebody what that thing is. And it crawls up the wall and I'm just like, okay. Then I'm like, there's something in the house. They're like, what's in the house? I'm like, it crawls up walls. And they're like, is it a spider? I'm like, no, it's got 4 legs. And they're like, oh, it's a lizard. I'm just like, it's not a lizard, because I've found lizards. Lizards are brown with stripes or no stripes, and they have 4 legs and a tail, and they have a tongue. So they're lizards. But what color is it? I'm not sure. It seems to be the same color as the wall. And they're like, oh, it's a gecko. I'm like, a gecko? Anyway, so we had this gecko in the house. And it would just crawl up this wall. And then one day, there's like shit on the wall from the gecko shitting on the wall. And my brother's cleaning it, right? And he's telling me that it's shit on the wall because I noticed it in camouflage. And my answer was, because he said next time it's just on the wall, you're cleaning it up. And my answer was, so geckos aren't real. Pretty much, it's just like, I'm not cleaning gecko shit off the wall, they're not real, or something like that. And anyway, I never saw another gecko in the house ever since then, until later on in life. We heard a gecko, and my partner said that a gecko had committed suicide. And this isn't funny. Like, this is like, what do you mean they're committing suicide? And I was like, he's like, look at the door frame. And I was gonna have a look at the door frame. There's this bunch of dead geckos in the door frame. I'm like, so are you killing them? Or he's like, why would I kill a gecko? I was like, I have no idea. Why is it making a noise and then dying? Like, because I closed the door and it doesn't make a noise when I close the door. Like, I'm not killing them when I close the door. So they must be just hiding in the door frame and just dying, or something, like calling out before they die. I don't know. Anyway, so there was this bunch of dead geckos in the door frame. Like, they never came into the house or anything like that. It was just dead in the door frame. There was this weird mystery behind suicidal geckos. And then the next story is that geckos actually do the perimeter of the property on the ceiling. Like, when they do come into the house, they start doing like this camouflage thing into the awnings of the ceiling, and then they disappear into these things up here. Anyway, they do the perimeter. They crawl around the outside and they do the whole perimeter of the room. And then, like, when they're outside, they do the whole perimeter of the outside. Anyway, so one day I'm just laying there and there's this gecko running across the ceiling. And I'm like, what is it doing? And it's like above me. And it's wagging its tail. And I'm just like, oh, if it falls on me, I'm gonna scream. I'm just like, this gecko is fully being weird. It's moving its tail and everything. And I was like, and it starts moving its tail. Then I just start screaming and running because I don't want a gecko to fall on my bed. Because, like, I've seen gecko shit, and the idea of a gecko even touching you is, like, gross. Like, I used to play with lizards because they have little claws. Like, they're tiny, and if you're very gentle with them, they don't... but you shouldn't pick them up because they can lose their tails. Like, the idea of a gecko shitting on you is, like, disgusting. Because the shit just, like... it's worse than bird shit. Like, anything like bird shit or gecko shit is just gross. Anyway, so, like, I like to tell stories about the geckos doing perimeters of the ceiling because I think that's cool. But I actually heard a story that some woman noticed a gecko in a house, and she ended up with gecko shit all over the walls because she noticed that there was a gecko on the wall or something like that, like, which you never see. So it's like some sort of myth. Like, if you hear a gecko call, it's committing suicide in your doorway, and if you see one that was shit on your wall, you'll get shit all over your walls. And if you tell stories about them doing perimeters, then they might fall in your bed, and it's still scary. I'm laughing like a wanker. I actually don't like this story, but that's my story of geckos. I haven't actually had one fall in my bed though, because, like, that would be bad. I just don't like the idea of it. But yeah. So the idea is that geckos are supposed to be camouflage, so you're not supposed to notice them. And they might not come into your house and shit all over your walls. As for the phenomenon of them committing suicide, I still have no idea why they did that.